everyone, and welcome to the Woolly Wonka Fibers podcast. My name is Anne, and today is September 5th. It's Labor Day here in the United States, 2016. This is episode 29 of my video podcast about my knitting, spinning, my indie dye and design business, and all kinds of other crafty goodness. So I hope you all have had a great long weekend if you're here in the States and are fortunate enough to have Labor Day off. My husband and I have been doing some things around the house this weekend, getting ready to go to the Salida Fiber Festival up in Colorado this upcoming weekend. So I will be vending there the 9th and 10th, which is next Saturday or this coming Saturday and Sunday. So if you're in the greater Denver area or southern Colorado or northern New Mexico, please come out and say hello. It's going to be a beautiful weekend, I think. They really picked kind of the perfect sweet spot in terms of weather and just all kinds of, the perfect storm of a good event to plan for the Fiber Festival. It is outside in the park, which is down by the riverfront. And if you haven't been to Salida, it's a great little town. There's tons of places to get good food, good coffee, little vintage stores, great bookshops. There's a yarn store in town in case you don't find something one of the vendors has, but it's a very good vendor pool. So I highly recommend, if you have any interest in fibery things, to come out and say hello. I have a little visitor helper, Emma, there. So I will have a whole bunch of samples in the booth. You can see things live, things I've showed on the podcast over the last couple of months. Lots and lots of fingering weight. I'll have some DK weight, a little bit of fiber, spinning fiber. And lots of patterns. So if you're looking for kind of a good fall project to kick off, probably have something that would interest you. So hope to see you all there. It's always a fun time. It's one of my favorite shows to go and do. So looking forward to that. So this week, let's talk about some fun other things. I wanted to share with you guys the September Heroines Shawl Club shawl. This is, I think, one of my favorites this year. It's themed after the Tracy Chevalier book, The Lady and the Unicorn, which is about the famous Millefleurs tapestries that were woven during the medieval period, which are the tapestries of a million flowers. And it's the ones where there's one just showing the unicorn and then this kind of vintage red background with little tiny flowers on it. Some have bunnies, some have, sorry, I got distracted by the cat. She's just on patrol. Some have little fleur-de-lis on them. There's a whole set of them, and the book is about how they were woven and the artisans who made them. It's a historical fiction book, but that's the premise behind it. And so I wanted to design a fairly lacy shawl. This is actually a one skein shawl. I'm using my Aislinn in the light, very light fingering weight. It's almost lace weight. So it starts at the back neck with just some simple eyelets and then goes into an eyelet floral pattern that gives way to more increasingly complex floral motifs and finishes off with kind of a flared arch shape and a picot binding. So this has gone out to the Fiber Club or to the Shawl Club members. I think everybody should have the yarn in hand, and the pattern has been delivered to your Ravelry library. While I don't have spots in the club open to get the kits, you can still pick up the patterns individually or as an ebook set if you'd prefer. I think this is one that would be really pretty beaded as well if you'd like to do beading. It's just a nice wearable shape. And lots of places you could add beads. There's little centers of the flowers that you could do that, as well as like on the stalks of these flowers. And you could certainly bead the edging if you wanted a little more frilly look. Um, but yeah, so a nice fall color, I think. Um, Something appropriate you could wear just tossed on as a little extra layer on those cooler mornings. So that is done. This is the fifth out of six kits that will be coming out. There's one more kit for the end of this year that will be going out November 1st. And right around November 1st, I'll also have information about next year's clubs. Going to be doing some different things, which I'm very excited about. Already kind of started the planning process. So I'll have lots of information about that upcoming in November for those of you who might be interested. So let's talk about things that are works in progress for knitting. I went ahead and cast on kind of my next garment project that's going to be in the Filament magazine in the spring edition. The theme of that edition is going to be everything roses. So very girly, very springy, lots of pretty soft feminine colors. So the garment that I'm working up, I'm doing in Kid Silk Haze. This is color number 580, which I think they call ballerina pink in a lot of on a lot of the online stores. It's a very, very pale pink. And you know, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Kid Silk Haze because I love how it knits up and I love how soft it is, but you just can't make mistakes with it. It's a pain to frog, and sometimes it's just easier to snip the end off and just toss the extra that you know that you can't use. So I'm trying to be very focused when I work on this project, but I'm going to take that in the car with me because it's a good garment project. It'll be lots of knitting hours. My husband's going to go with me to this show, so he'll drive, and I'll be able to get some knitting done. So that's going to go with me in the car to Salida. The other thing that I have not yet cast on, but is next up on my list, I'm 99.9% sure that my folks don't watch the podcast. I can't imagine that they do that. But Mom, if you are watching, you can look away. My mom requested some sort of neutral black / charcoal colored socks for Christmas this year, and she never asks for anything knit, so I am definitely getting these done for her. So I dug into Stash and I pulled out I have two skeins of this very neutral color. It's just a charcoaly tweed Yawool color. I've had it in Stash for eons, but I think it will be fine just for a pair of really basic, you know, black socks, basically. Not black. I have knit her black socks in the past, and you can only work on them in the middle of the day. You can't see your stitches at all. So these will be a little bit lighter, but still, you know, in that charcoal gray black family. So those will go on the needles as well. That probably will wind up being my booth, stand in the booth project, just because they're, you know, it's really straightforward. I'm gonna probably do a 2x2 rib for the leg and possibly onto the foot. My mom doesn't like things super, super tight, but I do think, you know, some ribbing is always a good thing if you're planning to wear stuff in boots, which she does a lot. Then I'm also working on my coffee date shawl. This is a part of the Coffee with Cece along that the Knitting Broomstick group is hosting, as well as the Gilmore Girls knit along, also being hosted in the Knitting Broomstick. I've made some progress on this. This is going to be a big shawl, you guys. So if you watched last week's episode, you know that The shawl is comprised of 6 different stripy patterns. And so the first one goes down to where the white ends. That's repeat 1. So I finished repeat 1 and I finished repeat 2. That gets to there. And then I've started on the final set of repeats. So I've got the 2 of the 3 skinny sets done and 1 of the bigger, wider ones. So I have to repeat the blue, the purple stripe, the speckle, and then the turquoise will be the bind off at the end. And so I'm over half done, but not 3/4. I'm somewhere in between there. But you can see this is a really generously sized piece already. It'll be perfect for wrapping up on a cold morning. And I haven't decided if I'm going to take this as a project. I feel like I should and just get some work done on it because I'm, you know, kind of getting to the end of it. And once I see the end in sight, even though there's a lot of knitting left to be done, I sort of want to get it finished up. I have all of September to knit it to go towards the Gilmore Girls knit along. And then I have till the end of the year if I wanted to wait that long to finish it for the Coffee with Cece along. But I don't. I want to get this one off the needles. But a really fun knit, and it's got enough different changes in all of the different patterns that it keeps you, keeps you motivated, keeps you occupied. You want to get through the next one so you can do the next little strip. A nice, relaxing, fun knit. So we'll see. I may work on it a little bit the couple of days until we leave and see how far I get. If I get most of it done, I may just take it so I can finish it. If it still looks like I've got a lot left to do, I may leave that one at home and just take a couple other projects that are more deadline oriented. I have one other secret knitting deadline project that I actually need to finish dyeing the yarn for. That's on tomorrow's to-do list. That has to go with me so that I can work on it. So that the shawl may stay home. We have a lot of space in the truck, and that's all very well and good, but I also don't need to take 6 projects with me, in theory. So let's see. I think that's it for knitting. On to spinning. I finished up applying the Superwash Merino Nylon blend from Fat Cat Knits into a 2-ply sock yarn. Really happy with how that came out. It is super squishy, super bouncy. I love the fall colors in it. The colorway again is Indian Corn. There's Ginny's tag. Definitely going to be socks. These are slated for sockdom. I wound up with 434 yards and 3.6 ounces, which is about 100 grams. So it's pretty spot on for a commercial weight sock, commercial weight sock yarn. So this is done. Another one for my Spin the Bin, which I'm very happy about. Making good progress on that. Then this week I have spun up the singles. I showed you guys the roving last week. This is also a Fat Cat Knits fiber. It is the same blend. It's the 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon, in the colorway Sushi, and it has little pops of kind of that bright salmony pink and green and a lot of pale pink and white. So this is bobbin 1. I have both the bobbins as singles spun up. My plan is to get those plied and then skein that off before we go so I have a clean spinning wheel to take with me. I think that this will be, ultimately be about the same grist as this one. So these will also go for socks. I rarely spin up things this pale. Ginny does not tend to dye things that are this light. She dyes things that are very saturated in color, more like this. So I'm interested to see how this plies up because I think it'll be interesting with lots of little pops of color. For this particular one, I wanted a lot of barber pulling, and if you remember from last week, the braid of fiber had long stretches of white, and then there was a pop of the kind of salmon color and a pop of the green. So there was a lot of pale color in the roving itself. So I split it in half. So I had two separate batches of 2 ounces. And then each of those 2 ounces I stripped into, I think it was either 8 or 9 little long strips so that the color changes would happen fast. And then hopefully when I apply, there'll be a lot of sort of mixing back and forth between those colors. I do think even having done that, there's going to be large chunks where the colors are very pale. Just there's a lot of pale pink in this. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll have that to show you the next time I record with any luck. So I did say that I am going to be taking my spinning wheel with me, and the next thing on my to spin list is this gorgeous roving. It is from the Time Travelers Club, from Hilltop Cloud. She's in Wales, I think. I think she's in Wales. This is a colorway called Tyrian Purple, from last September, so it's just a year old. Hey, a year-old stash as opposed to 5-year-old stash. Go me. It's 25% bamboo and 75% merino, and it's one of her custom blends. And you can see it is an amazing blend of colors. I think that's just gorgeous. And how perfect for fall. It's got like grape harvest and a little bit of chestnut and kind of some darker blackberry in it. So I have 8 full ounces of this, and I'm going to try to spin it fairly fine. I want a fingering weight yarn out of it, although I haven't decided for sure what I'm going to do with it. If I have enough, I might try casting on using it for a featherweight cardigan, but we'll have to see what kind of yardage I get. So my plan is to just take this as my fiber, usually 4 ounces if I'm gone for a week, and we are headed up to Yellowstone after the Salida Festival, where we've rented a cabin. It's supposed to be like 78 to 80 in Salida next weekend, but it's supposed to have highs in the 50s in Yellowstone and lows down in the 20s with some snow squalls. So we're taking lots of different clothes to cover all ends of that spectrum. But anyway, usually when I'm gone for a week, if I have some concentrated spinning time, and if we have some bad weather days, we won't do too much exploring in Yellowstone. I mean, if there's bad snow or ice or whatever, we'll just hunker down in the cabin and have a quiet day. So potentially I could get a fair amount of this spun up. I don't know that I'll have all 8 ounces done, but this is my last big batch in my Spin the Bin project. Everything else is 4 ounces or less. So I feel like if I can get this one done, I've made some really good progress to being able to get that bin completely finished up before the holidays start, which I would like to do. I think next year, and I don't know how much of a planner each of you is. I love to plan. I love to have lists. I love to check things off my lists. I love to kind of have things organized so I'm not feeling overwhelmed by choices. So I think next year what I may do is just not do as intense a spin the bin project, but challenge myself to take one of the storage bins down and kind of work my way through it, because there's a lot of them. At one point in time, I had my bins all organized by fiber base. So I had one that was merino, and I had one that was blueface luster, and I had one that was Polworth and silk, and I had one that was bats. And that's kind of still true, but as I've emptied out some of the things from each of those individual bins and then new stuff has come in, I haven't really put things back exactly in the same type of ordering situation. So as a result, you know, the BFL bin has some other stuff in it. It may have Polworth, it may have a merino bamboo blend that are sitting on the top. So I think that that may be my plan, is to try to tackle a bin by bin, because there is going to be some mixed bag quality to it. And I still have a whole bunch of stuff that I want to spin and um, kind of not get out of the bins. I mean, it's going to turn into yarn to be used, but move from fiber to yarn. That will make me feel good and productive. So that's kind of where I am with the world of spinning. Let's see what else. If I have anything else I needed to talk to you guys about that. I think that's it in terms of the spinning and the knitting. So if you're here just for that and some shop news, I will also remind y'all again that I'm planning to host a sock knit along for the month of October, for Socktober. And there will be more sock base colors up in the shop once I get back from Salida and see what I have left in stock. I'll be doing more fresh dyeing for that. And for September and October, you can use the coupon code fall 15, fall 15, to get 15% off any of the sock yarn bases. And so any sock yarn, any sock pattern, totally good for Socktober. I'll have more information on that posted in the Ravelry group, the Willy Wonka Fibers Ravelry group, when I get back from Salida. I think that's it for now about those. So I'm going to segue into some of the other crafty things. So if you were here just for spinning and knitting and you want to click off, that's okay. If you want to hear about the rest of the stuff I'm working on, that's good too. Probably have another 10 minutes or so of that. So this week I have finished up the third of 4 holiday ornaments that I wanted to get stitched. This is a sort of generic hot chocolate, hot cocoa themed wintry one. It is done on a 32 count over dyed linen. You can see it's kind of tea dyed looking. And it's 2 threads over 2 strands of thread over 2 threads in the weave. So I need to get a backing picked out for this one, and I'll probably wait and do all of the backings at once because it's just easier to set up the sewing machine and, you know, sew them, stuff them, get them all done at once. So I have one more that I want to do for the holidays. That's a snowman themed one as a gift for my sister-in-law and her family to put on the tree. I probably am gonna take a little break from these because it is, you know, I just have one more and they're maybe a week's worth of project. They're not a huge time commitment. They go together very quickly. So I think I'm gonna put these away and wait to finish it because I wanted to take with me a new project that's kind of fall themed. My husband he's just retired, but my husband has worked with this gentleman who is a glass blower. And Fred has these amazing, I'll bring some down when it's closer to the holiday season, hand-blown glass pumpkins, and they're all different. And it's got the gourd itself, and then it's got this gorgeous curly-cued stem on them. And they're iridescent, and some of them have like little color specks in them. They're gorgeous. So we have bought one every year for the last 3 years. So I have a little collection of them, and I wanted to do a fall tabletop decoration that will get us from like late October into November and the Thanksgiving period. So I found this pattern, which I think is really cute, called Babushka's Blossoms. And it's got that huge pumpkin and those gorgeous little flowers, and it's, you know, another sort of primitive look to it. So I'm taking that with me. I have it all kitted up. I have fabric for it and the floss, and so that is going to go with me as a travel project. It'll be a little bit more in depth than just 1 week. I think it's probably like a 2-week project. But it's also simple enough that I'm not trying to switch out tons of floss and have to take, you know, bags and bags of things. I found that this great canvas bag that I got in a swap this year from Julia in Australia is like the perfect size. It fits the pattern, it fits, you know, one crafty box, and my little square frame. All of those go easily in there, and I've got spare needles and a spare set of snips. So that is going to go as a travel project. And then last week I was talking to you guys about the Heaven and Earth designs. And so all of my stuff came for that. It's kind of nice that I never throw anything away because, for instance, I thought, you know what, I need floss organization boxes. Well, I had 2. You saw the other one. And this one I filled up with all of the bobbins for the colorways for this little ornament that I showed you last week. And not to be outdone by that, I also found my set of scroll bars, which were sitting in the same trunk, so that I could start that project. And so here is where I am. It's, I don't know if the camera will focus on it that tight. I don't think so. We'll try there. So on this, you can see I have started this little hat and the female gnome on her face. This is kind of a commando project because there are tons and tons and tons of colors in there, and I think it makes it a gorgeous finished piece. But you know, there's some of these squares that are 100 by 100 or 10 by 10 threads, and they'll be like 1 stitch of one color, and then there'll be 2 stitches of another color. There's very few sections where you're winding up being able to have multiple stitches of one color. So I am not taking this with me. I just think it's just too complex, too much stuff. I need really good light to work on it, and I'm sort of afraid of, you know, getting stuff dirty, losing things, all of the above. So this will stay home while I have the other travel project. But it is kitted up, it's ready, got all the colors, just working away on it as I work away on it. It's definitely a long-term project. So then the last thing I wanted to talk about was, if you all remember, I showed you this pattern last week, also from Heaven and Earth. And I do hope that you clicked through to their website to see the designs that they have, because they're truly amazing, and certainly do way better justice than this sad little printout does. And I think I had told you guys that I had ordered the fabric and floss from them as a kit for this particular one, which is called a stitching shelf, and has all the little historically dressed ladies throughout. And so that did come in the post this week. I have not used this particular type of fabric before. I've used the even weave before, but this you can see comes pre-gridded. So it already has the squares on it. You don't have to grid it yourself. So that will be an interesting kind of new thing to learn. I don't think it'll be, hard. It's just, as with anything new, you kind of have to take your time to organize and figure out how you're going to do it. And one of the nice things about this size project is, it's basically from there to there and there to there. It's not a huge project. So I felt like I could kind of get some, figure out some of the best ways to do things, like what was going to work the best for me following the charts, which are very in depth. And this particular like crazy mare's nest of threads is a technique I hadn't tried before called parking, where basically you knit to, or you work to the edge of a grid line, one of the straight lines across, and then you find the space below it where the next stitch should be made of that color, rather than constantly cutting the threads, weaving them in. So you have tons and tons, there's already tons and tons of woven in ends on the back. But this way you can kind of keep the integrity and just work wherever the next set of stitches might be, so you're using up the floss without constantly cutting it and having a ton of waste. And I do like that method. It's very helpful when you have one square with one stitch, and then there's a square over that has two stitches. Rather than starting and stopping, you just move the thread over to that space. But there kind of has to be a method to the madness, and if you're trying to stitch in an area that you've moved a lot of threads into, sometimes it's kind of hard to see around them. So I think I've finally gotten the kind of nitty-gritty of that figured out, which is good because this is a much bigger piece. This is the fabric for it, so you can see it's not tiny. It's a big piece. 29 by 20.5 inches. So good sized. And then I did also get all of the floss for it, which came from them in this really great packaging. Each one of the cards has the stitch key on it with whatever the color is matched here on a ring. I'm not entirely sure I don't think I'm going to put all this on bobbins. Some of the colors, like these here, these last ones, this is way too much floss to go on a bobbin. So I think rather than doing it by halvesies, where some of these, like this amount, you could probably make work. You might have to cut it in half, but you could make it work. I think rather than doing half of it one way and half of it another way, I'm just going to keep everything like they sent it with the color card, so I can find things relatively easily. Snip off what I need, work with that, and then just keep it organized like this. I sort of feel like it should be in a little notebooky kind of thing, but since I haven't started on that project, and I won't for a little while, that's my kind of next big thing to tackle. I'll think about whether or not I want to leave them in this organization or do something different, because it's a whole lot of floss. So I have that to look forward to. I may start it this month. I may wait and see how much progress I make on the little ornament, because I would like to try to get that pretty close if I can for Christmas. It's 3 months out, so maybe we'll find out. We'll see. Right now I'm motivated to work on it, and I know some parts of it will go a little faster. Like you can see right here, I started the outer, there's the outer ring that goes, that makes the circular shape, and it's mostly one color. So I may do some of that because that at least you feel like you're making progress. It's not quite as slow to stitch as the highly multicolored ones. So that is my current kind of progress, haul, plans, all that good stuff. I will not be with you guys next Monday for podcast, which is Monday the 12th. But then when we are back, I will plan on having a normal recording day with upload on the 19th of September. So again, if you are in the greater Southern Colorado, Denver, Northern New Mexico area, please come out and see me next weekend, this coming weekend, the 9th and 10th, at the Salida Fiber Festival. Promises to be a good time as always. In the meantime, you can always find me on the web at www.woollyWonkaFiber.com. On Instagram and Facebook as Woolly Wonka Fibers. You can find my Ravelry group under Woolly Wonka Fibers, and then you can always find my Ravelry personal page at Bunny Spinner. So until I talk to you guys again, have a great week. I hope you get some time for some fun crafting and some time to spend with family and friends, relaxing and enjoying the fall weather here in the Northern Hemisphere. So I will talk to you guys in a week plus. Have a good one. Take care.